Frodo is a character who knows how to cry. Maybe not as much as his buddy Samwise, who I feel like cries at every corner, but still, Frodo is in touch with his emotional side. He cried when they came out of Moria after Gandalf fell. Well, he actually cried after he saw Samwise already weeping, but still. He was very emotional when he was also leaving the Fellowship, and I think the movies actually really do a good job of portraying this with, like, the single tear that falls from his eye, and I think the other tear falls from his eye as well, but right when he's on the shore of the Anduin. But there is one moment for Frodo in the books that has been building for weeks on his journey, that in one single moment comes out in an absolute rush, and he has a total emotional breakdown. And it's in one of the most unexpected places in Middle-earth. But before I go on, keep in mind that I'm reading Lord of the Rings for the first time in my life, and I might get some things wrong, so show me a bit of grace in the comments. Let me know where I might err, or, what are their good spots that Frodo's cried in. And subscribe if you want to vicariously live through me, who is reading this book for the first time. But it's probably, the best book that I've ever read. And I'm not even on the final part yet. But let's get back to Frodo. So Frodo weeps in a very strange place in Middle-earth. He breaks down and has a total emotional breakdown in Minas Morgul, in the Morgul Vale, on the stairs of Cirith Ungol, when the Witch King comes out of his city and the entire army begins pouring out of the city. This is the moment in the book where Frodo is overwhelmed with emotion. And he is devastated. This is what the book says. So great an army had never issued from that vale since the days of Isildur's might. No host so fell and strong in arms had yet assailed the fords of Anduin. And yet it was but one and not the greatest of the hosts that Mordor now sent forth. Frodo stirred, and suddenly his heart went out to Faramir. The storm has burst at last, he thought. This great array of spears and swords is going to Osgiliath. Will Faramir get across in time? He guessed it, but how did he know the hour? And who can hold the fords when the King of the Nine Riders comes? And other armies will come. I am too late. All is lost. I tarried on the way. All is lost. Even if my errand is performed, no one will ever know. There will be no one I can tell. It will be in vain. Overcome with weakness, he wept. And still the host of Morgul crossed the bridge. Now, this moment has been building with Frodo for weeks. And ever since he left the Fellowship, he's been terrified of their fate, especially after he met up with Faramir, because he learns there that Boromir's died. And he says, if Boromir is dead, then all the rest of them must die too. And it's a moment that he cannot really be comforted, even though Faramir is actually sitting there trying to say, how did Boromir, receive a funeral procession if your friends are dead? The orcs wouldn't do that. And so it comforts Frodo for about a half of a second before he's back into despair, thinking that all of his friends are dead. And this idea carries on into the next few chapters too, where Frodo just keeps revisiting this and keeps thinking his friends have died and that he is too going to die on this journey. But this one moment really shows how Frodo falls into despair, when he just needs an emotional release from all the pain that he's enduring and carrying. Not only is the ring heavier on him, and the ring being heavier is really evident in this chapter. He's been walking closer and closer to Mordor, so the ring just keeps weighing him down. But the weight of his friends who came with him on this journey and their fate is weighing heavier and heavier on him, I think, than even the ring. I think reading this moment, I just feel such sadness for Frodo and the burden that he's carrying. He deserves to have an emotional breakdown at these moments. A moment where he's seeing this massive army pour out of Minas Morgul. And it's not even the largest force that he has, or that Middle-earth really has. The largest force is behind Mordor. But Frodo sees this force and is overcome with grief about the friends that he might lose. First he thinks about Faramir, the nearest person that he really saw. This new friend that he just gained. How can Faramir and his band of Gondorian men stand up against this? And then he falls totally and utterly into despair about everything. I am too late. He starts with this phrase, showing that he feels like he's failed the mission, something that all of us have probably felt to some degree. Feeling like if he just hurried up a little bit faster, then he could have saved his friends. Now, this guilt racks up even more when he keeps saying things in this entire paragraph. Then he falls into this grand scheme of despair by saying all is lost. At the heart of this moment is Frodo's feeling of failure. I tarried on the way, he thinks. And this is the biggest moment that, all of us have experienced this in some way. I was just talking to someone that I regularly run into while walking my dog. and our dogs are kind of buddies. And he said that someone that he knows, his cousin, was only 40 years old when she just dropped dead out of nowhere a few weeks ago. She has 2 little kids. It's devastating, absolutely devastating. And now the family, he was saying that they were on vacation a few weeks earlier than that, and she needed to go home one day from vacation because she was just not feeling great. And now every family member is haunted by that, thinking that if they just paid attention or if they just tried to help her in whatever it was that was happening, then she'd still be here today. And that guilt is absolutely overwhelming. Frodo is haunted by the long, weary delays and the sidetracks of his journey, which, to be honest, weren't really even delays. If you look at his journey, he was lost, he got through the Black Gate and then resupplied and was captured in Ithilien and let free. He could not have gotten to where he was quicker, to be honest. And so he internalizes the guilt of not arriving sooner. Though no one in Middle-earth could have really moved faster under, I think, the burden that Frodo was dealing with, because no one really could have carried the ring like Frodo. The line, "Even if my errand is performed, no one will ever know," is particularly sad. It shows how isolated Frodo feels. He imagines not only the fall of Gondor, but the total obliteration of any witness or memory of his sacrifice. Now, this is despair in its purest form. Not just the loss of hope, but a belief that your efforts, that your pain, that your courage will ultimately mean nothing. Then Frodo weeps. And honestly, I don't think it's from fear or from grief, but from exhaustion, from the fatigue of his guilt. This act of crying, which I think is rare and powerful, is one of the few points in the novel where the ring bearer shows this absolute emotional vulnerability. He's cried before, but not to this extent. Not just to others, but also to himself. And as he weeps, the host of Morgul continues on, uncaring and unstopping. It's such a powerful image here. You have Frodo's private, silent collapse with the mechanical forward surge of evil. The enemy is indifferent to Frodo's suffering. The machine of war keeps moving, and Frodo is just a small figure hidden in the shadows beside the road, overwhelmed by the scale of it all. In this moment, I think Tolkien illustrates something really relatable and really important. The terror of realizing the world may not be changed by your efforts, no matter how hard you've tried. It's the cry of every soul who struggled in darkness and wondered if it was all in vain. Yet ironically, it's this despair that proves Frodo's strength. Not in avoiding it, but in enduring it. He does not quit. He weeps, but he keeps going on. And this is one of my favorite moments in this exchange, because the thing that gets Frodo out of despair is the voice of Sam. And while he's really not fully put together, I think the thing that enables him to keep on walking and continue on walking is this companion with him. And this is the most astonishing thing about Frodo. He does not give up. He may be lost, his friends may be destroyed, the Shire might fall, and all the good in this world might fade, but he still marches on. This is what the book says right after this moment. "Wake up, Mr. Frodo, they're gone. And we'd better go too. There's something still alive in that place. Something with eyes. Or a seeing mind, if you take me. And the longer we stay in one spot, the sooner it will get on to us. Come on, Mr. Frodo." Frodo raised his head, and then stood up. Despair had not left him, but the weakness had passed. He even smiled grimly, feeling now as clearly as a moment before he had felt the opposite. That what he had to do, he had to do. If he could. And that whether Faramir or Aragorn or Elrond or Galadriel or Gandalf or anyone else ever knew about it was beside the purpose. He took his staff in one hand and the file in the other. When he saw that the clear light was already welling through his fingers, he thrust it into his bosom and held it against his heart. Then, turning from the city of Morgul, now no more than a gray glimmer across a dark gulf, he prepared to take the upward road. In The Lord of the Rings, you have tons of battles, you have clashes of kings, you have these incredible moments that happen in this series. But it is this hidden moment of private defeat, where he says all is lost, that really shows the burden that Frodo is carrying. This is the first chapter where you really see the weight of the ring and how it's actually forcing Frodo to walk or hunch over. It's heavier to him in this chapter. But this burden feels like nothing compared with the burden of despair that he's feeling in this moment. Frodo's despair is not weakness, though. It's the price of his unwavering will to go on, even when no hope remains. And so we push on, like Frodo. The whole world might be failing, and we might be in the throes of despair, but always, always do what Frodo does. Take the upward road, and keep putting one foot in front of the other. And as always, remember to look toward Numenor that was, and beyond to Elvenhome that is, and to that which is beyond Elvenhome, and will ever be. I'll see you in the next one.